GOAT energy or that greatness, we can all adopt that mentality. Do you want a big dog or an underdog?
Despite all odds, the team, the athlete can achieve greatness, and it seems more universal for us everyday people.
Music and sports have always been very synonymous.
They have to be one way on the court or the field, and this side allows them to have a certain emotional outlet.
You gotta love what you're doing. That's what really separates professionals from all of the rest. Welcome back to Curls of the Game, where your favorite curly girls in sports go beyond the highlights and dive deep into the stories that matter. Hi, Chloe. How's it going?
Hey, we're back, better than ever. I'm excited to jump. We're in a different setting, clearly, but we're making it happen. We're making things shake either way. And so, how have you been?
I have been good, just coming off a little flu, but this journey that we've been on to get this virtual podcast set up is actually hilarious. Like, anything and everything that could have gone wrong for a virtual podcast went wrong. So it's truly a miracle.
Because if y'all only knew.
If y'all only knew the journey that we went on to talk about some very important topics today.
This episode, we're going to peel back some more layers. We're going to uncover some more interesting stories within sports, from underdogs to rising against all odds, the intersection of music and sports, and also how the winner's mentality is adopted across all sports. So this is going to be a good one. I'm excited to dive deep into these themes. But first, Roman thoughts and random
thoughts.
Roman thoughts.
What is a Roman thought? Random thoughts and Roman empires. I've just been thinking about, first of all, Halloween is like my favorite holiday. I think everybody that knows me just knows that I love Halloween. Halloween is like my Valentine's and Christmas combined. I just love it. But once the second Halloween is over, everybody wants to jump straight to Christmas. Like, the Thanksgiving slander every year is beyond me. Why are we immediately getting out our tinsel and our Christmas trees on November 1st?
Thanksgiving does not get any love. Honestly, I'm a fan. I love to eat.
I love Thanksgiving.
But you're right. People like immediately, it'll still be Halloween and people put up their Christmas lights and bring out their tree. Like, y'all need to relax, give it a second, let another holiday breathe.
And okay, I get that Thanksgiving can also be controversial because people are like, if you look into the history of Thanksgiving, it's really messed up. Fair. I look at it as a time to be really grateful for the things that I have, and I love cooking, and I just love being home and watching football and eating, saying a good grace, things like that. And I just feel like it's like a good time for gratitude and to just like let yourself rest and reset before you have the stress of Christmas. But how do you feel about Thanksgiving?
I mean, to second what you said, I've always thought about Thanksgiving as a time to spend with my family, my loved ones, even for the time that I was in school. It's like, that's a time where I get to go home and, as you mentioned, relax, de-stress, especially as the year comes to an end. It's November, we got 1 month left before 2025. So it is a time to just relax. There's no need to speed and expedite the process because Lord knows that this year has been quite the year already.
Exactly. I think that maybe that's everyone's problem. People don't know how to just chill.
Just relax.
And newsflash, they do have Thanksgiving decorations, you guys. All right. It might not be. They've got some turkeys. They've got some gobble gobble. Okay. They have some nice maple leaves. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Just, there's no need to rush. All right. So, justice for Thanksgiving. This is my official notice to America. Justice for Thanksgiving. Let Thanksgiving shine, please. I beg you.
Not you petitioning to bring Thanksgiving to the forefront.
I'm over it. I just want us to all give it a little more love. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
What is on your mind? What's your
All
Roman Empire
right.
of the week?
So, my Roman thought. Um, okay, but seriously, so I was listening to this podcast that's about women empowerment, making bold moves in business and in life. And the host had on a guest where she was basically saying when you think about every word or most words that commonly describes a successful woman, they all happen to be negative, like boss bitch, badass bitch. And I, subconsciously, it is very degrading, but I am guilty of being like, oh, if I see a fellow colleague or something, I'll comment, oh, I'll be like, oh, boss bitch, badass bitch. I'm guilty of saying those things. But when you really think about it, it's like, that's vulgar language and really crazy to think about how language is baked into and embedded to how we talk about women's success. And I gave it more thought because it's like, wow, I really didn't we say those things to uplift other women, but essentially it can be really degrading when obviously that's not our intention, but it is something that maybe we can think about as a society. But what do you think? Do you think it is harmful to say those things and in that manner?
Yeah, that is a really interesting take. And honestly, it makes me wonder where that rhetoric stemmed from because I feel like it has become, in a sense, normalized. And I think when we think about the term bitch, there's so many ways that you can say
Oh
it,
yeah.
and you'll know if it is meant as a form of respect or disrespect. Like, you could be like, bitch, and then you're like, oh, she's just saying, girl,
Like
what's
girl.
up? Or you can be like, bitch, and you'll be like, what did you just say to me? Did this girl
Mhm.
just call me a bitch? So when
Right.
you say, like, okay, boss, bitch, like, I don't know how we've turned that into kind of a term of endearment in a
Right.
sense, and I think that's kind of what you're getting at is like,
Yeah.
at what point did we switch derogatory comments into a term of endearment? I wonder if it's kind of like a sense of taking our power back and kind of retaking ownership of words that used to be derogatory. Like how we've done that with the N word
Right.
in the
Yeah.
black community. We've kind of taken it and been like, you know what, they used to call us this, now this is our word and we're taking it and we're using it to address each other
Right.
and it's just for us. Do you think that we should continue to use it or do you think that we should like cancel the use of bitch in an endearing way? Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am like, okay, why can't I just make a comment and call a woman, oh, she's a boss? Why does it have to be boss bitch? Like, so I'm really going to make it more of a conscious effort just to uplift in more actual endearing terminology. Like, oh, you're a businesswoman, you're strong, you're powerful, actual words of encouragement.
But I also don't think if someone is like, oh, she's a bad bitch, that I'll be like, how dare you call me
Exactly,
a
for
bitch?
sure. Moving on though to the good stuff.
Right. We do have some big dogs. Well, to cover, if you
She don't
will.
want a little puppy.
She want a big
Big
dog
dog.
or an underdog. There's a lot of talk about underdogs and just kind of why we love the underdog so much. What is the lore of an underdog and kind of the appeal that we see in sports? There's so many examples of amazing underdogs, and it's kind of like once people make it to a certain point in their career, we want to hear their story, especially if they weren't the person that everybody knew their name off rip, or they weren't the person that everyone was rooting for from the very beginning. I know I personally love an underdog story. So I'm wondering if you have some underdogs in sports that you're like, I just love their story.
I think about other athletes like the Brock Purdy's and his journey with the 49ers and how he went from being nothing to something. He really came up off of being quote unquote Mr. Irrelevant, right? And so I feel like I relate to underdogs. I always find myself, even if it's just a game where I have no correlation or affiliation to any given team, if I see a team that is down by 10 or something, I always find myself rooting for them because I just want to see them come back. And it is more of a relatable thing, right? Like, despite all odds, the team, the athlete can achieve greatness. And it seems more universal for us everyday people because we've all had experiences where, whether we're coming from behind, someone's preying on our downfall, and we feel less equipped. But when we see someone with limited resources, I feel like it does resonate with the general ideology of struggles and hopes and just being a symbol of determination.
It's like a medium for inspiration and hope that with the right amount of hard work and talent and dedication that you can get to where you're going even if certain things are stacked against you. Anything that comes easy isn't as interesting. And even like you said, we've all had those experiences, and I know a lot of times when I was in places where I'm like, I'm not where I need to be yet, or why is a certain goal so difficult for me to reach right now? And when you do finally get there and accomplish something that you've really been setting out to do, when you look back, you're like, this is a part of my story. And it makes your journey to where you're going so much more special. Even with teams, I think like Dion and everything that he's been doing at Colorado is a huge example of just like trying to beat out powerhouses when you first got to CU and just what he's built with that team. I love a good underdog story and serves as a reminder that we all have to work hard to get to where we want to be. So I'm curious, do you have a specific underdog story, like a time in your life where
Well,
you're
what's
just like,
funny is I was literally going to say, you and I, we're both underdogs in this industry right now, just with the going through the journey. And I know we talked about it in our first episode, but going
yeah,
through the struggles is all a part of our path and what we're
right.
going through right now. So essentially, this podcast, you and I, we are the underdogs.
We
So we're
definitely
going through
are.
it at this very moment. So that's
This platform is our baby, and it definitely has been nothing short of an uphill battle to get everything pieced together properly to be able to consistently do this. So, um, yeah, definitely relating to, I think we're in the resilience and grit
oh yeah.
phase, the
Yeah.
part where you just work, 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 and you're like, all right, let's just not give up, you guys.
Gotta write it out for real. Like, were you the one that you had showed me some meme and it was like you have two choices to either lean with it or rock
Or
with
rock with it. You can either do this or you can do that. There's really,
it? One or two
there's really not
choices.
that much we can do. I
Right.
feel like that's my vibe right now. Going into the end of the year is just like, look, you just got to do what you can do and
You gotta
leave the
stick
rest
it out.
in the Lord's hands. And that truly is, even though like we all joke about it and we're like, oh, give it up to God. It really is.
You have to have faith.
The moment you have faith and surrender and just do what's in your control, there's no better way to reach whatever you're trying to reach. And there will always be something good, even I have learned from trying and failing at many things many times over many years that you will get something out of it, even if it's not exactly what you thought you wanted to get out of it. 9 times out of 10, what I've extracted from doing something or messing up at something, what I've extracted from that experience, even if it's not what I thought I was doing it for, has been so valuable to my growth and development as a person.
Hmm.
And I think if you continue to have that mindset and step out of kind of look at the bigger picture of why you're doing what you're doing, it makes it all worth it. So, shout out to all the underdogs out there in sports and in real life. We're all rooting for
We see
you.
you, we feel you. So, speaking of resilience and grit, I know society tends to put us all into certain boxes, which can be detrimental, but it's what you do about it and how you act upon the way you move and go about things in the industry and just in your day to day. I look at even athletes in their particular space and how they choose to combat combat the pressures of being pinned to, oh, they're just an athlete. And we see a lot of them, which, you know, if you're following social media recently, a lot of them come out with freestyles, putting out their own music, their own albums, and really using their platform as a space to be creative. Athletes like Lonzo Ball, he dropped a few albums during his come up, and then I saw recently, it was a couple months ago, Lance Stevenson, he was featured on the On the Radar freestyle. We see them just doing their thing in their sport, but when they come out and they're really serious about dropping albums and getting in the studio, it is funny to think about. But on the other side of it, it's like it's all about expression. Like they have to be one way on the court or the field, and this side allows them to have a certain emotional outlet. Music really holds a lot of power because we know how much the act of listening has for athletes just a part of their pregame rituals. And now the act of writing their lyrics or making beats, songs, or getting in the studio can really, I feel like it can reinforce their focus, their confidence, and just different affirmations because we know how even the everyday guy, when they're singing Lil Baby or they're singing a certain rap lyric, they feel like they're that guy. They feel like they're him. And so I think that rapping is really just allows them to explore that different side of them.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's not rapping, the shut up and dribble narrative is so beaten to death. And frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. And no one person is only good for one thing. Even you and I, we are not just journalists. You know, there's so many things, so many, we're all such multifaceted, diverse people. So there's just no way to say that, oh, you're only good for one thing for anyone. And I think when it comes to music specifically, I love the fact that certain athletes are using music to express themselves. I think music and sports have always been very synonymous. When I think about why so many of them are also making music and um, kind of picking up hobbies, I wonder if it's just a space for them to be vulnerable and creative in ways that they can't show on the court or on the field. Like, you don't, besides doing interviews, you don't get to talk or really tell people how you feel. So I'm curious if that's kind of why, if they're looking to have a voice in a different way.
I think that is, you know, their way of getting whatever it is off their chest.
Right. Because who just wants to talk about sports all the time? Like, I mean,
We say
well,
that as we have
we love talking about. Okay, we all love sports,
but you're right. No, like
but imagine if
it's
day and
their
night,
job.
there,
So
it's your job. You're constantly being asked about it. That's all people really care to hear about from you. Sometimes maybe you just want to talk about other parts of your life, or maybe you just want to like let people know, like, hey, I also have these experiences. Like, I don't have to talk about my triple double every day of my life, or whatever it is.
that's so true. That's so relatable too. Because even like when we're in school and our parents or relatives would ask, "Oh, how's school going?" Like, I don't want to talk about classes right now. I don't want to talk about that. Or just like during like
Right.
with my current job, people ask me how things are going. Like, I don't want to. Like, I'm clocked out. I'm out of the office. Like, can I indulge in different things? So 100%,
Right.
I can relate to that.
Right. And this is their office. It is still these leagues are still a business and their games are still a job, even though it is fun and it is an amazing job, I'm sure, that they're all blessed and grateful to have. It is still work. Nobody wants to think about work all the freaking time. It's a lot. And so decompress how you want to decompress. Also, music is a universal language. For me, it just reminds me that people are multidimensional in all fields. We all have a million things that we can offer this world. So I would encourage everyone, athletes included, but everyone, to remember that you can do multiple things and do them well. So don't pigeonhole yourself, don't box yourself in. Obviously, don't spread yourself too thin. And mind you, there are quite a few athletes who music is not their path. Okay? Like
So get out the booth
Kelsey's
and
ex husband is a great example. There's some There's some where it's like, okay, I appreciate you for, trying,
for your
but
contributions.
perhaps we should put SoundCloud away. Perhaps the booth is not the place for you. But I still applaud everyone for going out there, and it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there musically. I mean, it's not something that I think I would be able to
I
do
don't think so.
with my
Y'all got that one. But no, on the topic of you said that athletes are multidimensional. We know that athletes try a lot of different things and they can excel not only in other hobbies but also other sports.
There's many examples of athletes that play so many different sports. When you're growing up, high school, middle school, college, you can run track in the spring, play football in the fall. But when you can do so many different sports and do them all well, I think that's really unique, and it sets you apart because obviously it takes a lot to excel in any one sport, but that's true athleticism to me if you're able to be multifaceted in a way that you can excel in multiple sports at a time. I feel like that defines being a true athlete.
We have ourselves done quite a few research about who those certain athletes are, one of them being Patrick Mahomes. He excelled in various sports growing up, from basketball to baseball to football. He was that guy, clearly the guy you wanted to be picked first on your team for field day, because clearly he did it all, and we should have known that he would develop into this star quarterback today at just 28 years old. Some like to call him the baby goat, right?
Mahomes had actually said that his focus was always just on winning, regardless of the sport. He just had a winner's mentality, and that was what was most important to him, was winning and having that competitive spirit. And I think that athletes that are able to do what he did and just be really good are just very competitive and want to win, and regardless of what it is, they're going to go ahead and do that. Another really good example is Odell Beckham. He obviously also chose football in the long run, but at 14, he was invited to try out for the U.S. national soccer team. He was actually an incredible soccer player and decided not to do that because he didn't want to be too far away from home, having to travel. Obviously, soccer is more popular internationally, so he would not be in the US. But the fact that he was doing competitive soccer for so long and transitioned to football so seamlessly, played college football at LSU, and then got drafted to the NFL, is another example of just how when you have a certain mindset of just winning, excelling, and then having that true athleticism to be able to transition from sport to sport, it's very impressive. It offers over a conversation about how do you pick? How do you pick which one to do, which one to try and make it in. Odell said soccer was his first love, and it was a very tough decision for him to say, do I want to go pro in soccer or try to make it pro in the NFL? And I'm sure Mahomes, he was very good at baseball, he was very good at basketball, and he had to decide, like, look, I can only commit to a college, in one of these sports. Which one is it going to be?
Yeah, I honestly had no idea that OBJ was that great at soccer to even get picked to try out for the US national team. So that's crazy to hear, just because it shows the level of excellence and attention to detail to be that great at, like you said, not just one sport, but two sports. So to do so and be a high level athlete, that really speaks to their level of commitment and training. There's a quote that says, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And clearly,
Mm.
athletes to be good at not only one, but two things, that really is a reflection of their work ethic, to say, all right, I have mastered this sport. I'm going to master a whole other sport that takes different skill sets. When you think about the skill sets that you need for soccer or baseball, it's different than, football or basketball. On that note, though, I want to talk about some call him the GOAT across all sports is Michael Jordan. And he also is another athlete that has such a strong winning mentality. Many know of his little baseball stint in the minor leagues. He had signed a minor league contract with the White Sox in 1994. And mind you, still crazy to think about the fact that he was fresh off a three-peat with the Bulls playing in the NBA and then took a little side mission to
He's
play.
like, I don't know. I'm not doing no wrestling.
No, we ain't doing no wrestling.
So that's exactly what he did. He took a little side mission to play in the minor leagues. And, although he did get a lot of flack, it wasn't no mind blowing performance. I know not athletes, outlets even mocked his performance or lack thereof, but it's still a crazy thing to say, I played in the NBA and, oh, I also played in the MLB. I credit his ambition, regardless of how he did perform in the minor leagues. I credit his ambition, and it really is just a reflection of his love of the game, just in general. Like, he played a little bit of baseball in high school, and his father put him in the sport. But I feel like when you love the game, you love the game, and it reflects in all areas of simply being a cutthroat competitor.
And Michael Jordan takes everything personal, as we know.
We know that.
He takes it personal. I do think it's just that love of the game, and that's what really separates professionals from all of the rest. It's just you gotta love what you're doing, or you've gotta just love the game itself. And you can see it. You can just see it. You can see the people that love what they're doing. That's why they thrive, and that's why they go so hard, and that's why they push through those tough times. So um, Odell, Patrick Mahomes, Michael Jordan, those are three of some of the most notable athletes of our generation, and they were all multi-sport athletes. So I wonder if that goat energy or that greatness, I think we can all adopt that mentality in whatever it is that we're trying to do. Is like, just love it and do your best to always try and win. I'm honestly, because I'm an only child and I didn't grow up with siblings, I don't have that competitive spirit that, like, I feel like you need a little bit sometimes to,
Oh, yeah.
like I've just never been that girl that's like competing with everyone, but I think I could honestly use it a little bit more of like, okay, but you gotta have like that like chutzpah or whatever to like
Or
get
whatever.
in the ring and compete. But for me, it's always just been kind of like, I don't know. I just think we all just do how we do, and like we all end up where we were supposed to end up, and like just do your best, man.
That's
So it's
funny.
interesting. How do you feel
That
about
is
like
interesting
competitive
because,
mindsets?
you say that you're an only child, and I grew up with two brothers. I'm the only
Oh, so
girl,
you know about
and
competition.
I'm a middle child, so I'm
Oh,
literally in double whammy. Yes, so I know all about this. I feel like I subconsciously, it is baked into me, but when I think about it, I'm just like, oh, that's just how I am. But I never really sat and thought about that is maybe because I have two brothers and I grew up really close to them, and they really helped shape who I am and my personality, just having that competitive nature. It is important regardless of if you play a sport or if it's in your day-to-day life, at your job, you need to display passion in whatever it is you do. It's important to compete, to find areas to compete, because in turn, it's going to make you better and challenges yourself and just stimulates overall improvement, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to win at life. And how do we do that? Keep performing, keep showing up, keep bettering ourselves at our crafts, feed into your desires and your ambitions.
I totally agree. But at what point does a winner's mindset get toxic?
Yes, so I that did come to mind because I think it is important to not be too hard on yourself. in a way that causes this self-harm that you're alluding to, right? Because it can get to a point where it's like, all right, you've pushed yourself to your limit. Even
Or
just
it's like if you have a loss or a failure, now you can't recover from it because you're so
wrapped up.
upset
Yeah.
because you're so competitive. So what is that balance for you, would you say?
I think it is. I do find myself being caught up in my head a lot because I do want to perform at a high level at everything that I do. And so it is just taking the time and sitting back and being like, and giving myself grace. My mom tells me this all the time. You know, I know that I'm a hard worker. I know that I want to put my best foot forward in everything that I do. And she sees that in me. You know, my loved ones see that in me, and they're the ones that have to say, Chloe, you're doing great. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Like, you just give yourself grace and know that as long as you're trying your hardest, there's no need to overwork yourselves because, you know, something that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, everything is going to work out as long as you have the faith in yourself and faith in whatever you believe in, right? And just continue to keep your head down and just not take anything too seriously because it's really, life is such a crazy, unserious thing when you really think about it. And yes, there's that push and pull of, oh, you do want to be great, but at what cost? Like, you don't want to beat yourself up trying to be great, and you can't even really sit in your achievements because you've beaten yourself up for it. So I think that is a good point that you bring up. It's something that I've had to work on for sure the last few years. So yeah.
Even when you do win, letting yourself sit in that win is hard because you're either looking for the next win, or I have this thing where I feel a little bit scared to celebrate it. I'm like,
Mm,
well, I don't really like that's it's good, but like I don't feel like I should celebrate right
right. No, even when we remember when we dropped our first episode and after all the editing, all the
now. Oh
production,
my
we were
god.
like, we were like, oh, it's out.
We went through all this hard work.
We were
We
like,
edited it, we put our blood, sweat, and tears in this episode, and when it finally went up, we were just like,
it's out. Just another day.
like we were just like, there was no celebration. It was like this is what was supposed to be done.
This was such a
Yeah,
big thing, and
it
we
was a
shared
huge
that.
achievement. But like, what is wrong with us? Like,
Wow,
it's
we
just like
didn't.
we were like, no, that's what we should have been doing.
Right.
So what is there to be happy about? Like, what are you smiling for?
What are you smiling
What did
for?
Drake say? Like, he doesn't even treat you that good. Like, why are you smiling?
No,
Like,
but to your point, you know, it is important to celebrate
it
wins,
is.
whether that be
Yeah,
big
we
or
should have
small.
celebrated. We'll
We should
celebrate
have
episode
celebrated.
2.
That
That'll
was
be
our big hoorah. Yes,
we'll have a virtual glass of wine, and that will be our makeup celebration for episode 1 and 2.
exactly.
But overall, yes, keep that winner's mindset. Allow yourself to win. And if you lose, don't sit in it for too long. I think that's where you have to let the competitive mindset go and extract the lesson from the loss. And that's the best way, in my experience, to recover from loss. Because if you are perfectionists like us, losses can be very difficult. And just look for the lesson. I promise you, it'll make it so much easier to grieve whatever the hell happened, and you'll move on.
This too shall
Shall
pass.
pass. Amen.
Remember that.
Remember
Amen.
that. I think that pretty much sums up what were we on? Multi-sport athletes, but it all tied in.
It
It
all
all
tied
tied in.
in, honestly.
So shout out to the greats. Shout out to the goats out there.
If they can do it,
In another universe,
so can you.
Odell could have been like Lionel Messi somewhere. So
Right.
he could have been out
Imagine him.
here.
Can you like picture him like with a little soccer uniform, scoring goals?
I honestly could. And I mean, and that makes sense because his biggest talents was always his speed, his
Mhm.
footwork. Those are skills that are valuable in football and
Right.
football.
He's out here gatekeeping his own skills from the universe.
He's
Like,
gatekeeping. Good thing he had kids, so
true.
they have a chance to go out there and do amazing stuff too. But that is all of our thoughts for this week, at least. But we promise it's gonna be, we worked out all of our kinks. We worked out the nonsense, and We're really looking forward to just consistently bringing you underlying narratives and thoughts about topics going on in the space. So thank you guys. Thanks everyone for just being patient with us.
More episodes to come, so stay tuned, stay in the loop. We also have our the episode 1 out if you guys want to check that out and haven't already. And just as we say, we always appreciate the support, the love. We're really out here doing it.
Thank you guys for supporting your underdogs. If you're here this early in our journey, special shout out to you because we're truly teeing off right now.
This
So.
is just the beginning. Just barely teeing off.
But you know what? It's great. It's awesome. Until next week. Until next time.
Yes, we'll see you guys.
Bye guys.